Hi, this is an introduction to the digital multimeter, or the DMM. So the DMM is used in this lab to primarily measure three different types of measurements in your circuits, which is voltage, resistance, and current. So to be able to connect this to any circuit, you're going to need a BNC cable, a banana to BNC adapter, and your probes. So to connect it to the DMM, you're going to want to take your adapter with the negative tab facing down and connecting it to the red and black inputs labeled high and low. And then you can connect your BNC coax cable and take your probes and connect them to the other end of your BNC cable. So to demonstrate a voltage measurement, we can use this breadboard power supply, and we're just going to connect it to the 5-volt and ground leads. And you're going to want to switch to volts, and since this is a DC power supply, you're going to hit DCV right there, and you're going to want to range up, and we will see that it is approximately 5 volts. So if you noticed before, the menu was displayed as overload, and that's because what the range is just trying to display is out of range, because this range is only up to 1 volt. So you can increase the range by hitting the plus button until you get your actual values. But you want to make sure you don't go too high, otherwise you lose your significant figures and you have a larger error. You want to make sure that your leads are connected in the proper polarity in your circuit. So right now, we're showing a positive 5 volt DC voltage, which is expected. So this is, if you attach this up here correctly with the negative tab facing down, then everything is color coded. The red would go positive, in this case it's red to red, and then black is negative, and it's black to black. So I'm going to demonstrate if you have it backwards by connecting the probes to the opposite connections. So now we would expect a negative voltage, and if you go back to the DMM, we see the negative sign up here. And this is important because voltage is, unlike resistance, has positive and negative. So you want to make sure your probes are connected in the proper orientation in more complicated circuits. The next function that the DMM can do is to measure resistance. So we're going to switch over to resistance by pushing the ohm button, which is an omega with a 2 next to it. And right now I have a 2 kilo ohm resistor attached to the probes, and if we look at the value, it's very close to 2 kilo ohms, and that should be within the 5% discrepancy of the resistor. So because you're going to be working with a wide range of resistor values from single ohms up to mega ohms, this range function is going to come into play again. Alternatively, you can always hit shift and then auto, and that will auto range the DMM in case you're in a hurry and you're not sure how far the range is, so you don't have to click through the range, all the ranges to get your values. You want to make sure when you measure resistance in a resistor that you don't want to measure it in an active circuit, because that will give you a complex average of the whole circuit's resistance. So when you measure a resistor, just take it out and measure it like this, and when you're done, plug it back into your circuit. The third set of measurements that you would take would be current, which you would want to measure in series, and it requires a slightly separate or different setup. What you have is you have your setup with your banana to BNC to mini grabber cable setup, and you're going to want to have two of them. So you're going to plug the first set, same as before, and you're going to have the second one plugged with also the negative tab on the bottom to the fuse, the 3 amp fuse, to the sense low connector with the negative in the fuse. And it will look like that. And now you would do your measurements with just the black mini grabbers, because we want to measure from low input to the 3 amp fuse. And what's correlated with these adapters is the negative tab that tells you that these are what you want to use. So to measure current, we will hit Shift, and then over here we see DCI and ACI. We're measuring a DC current right now, so we'll go to DCI, and we'll see that this switches to amps. And to measure, we're going to measure the 2 kilo ohm resistor and in a 5 volt power supply, and we'll just connect these mini grabbers to the leads. And if we go back to the DMM, we see that it's displaying 2.59 milliamps. Our second setup is much simpler, and it involves a female banana plug adapter to BNC, your mini grabbers, and 2 banana cables. So if we color code them for simplicity, you're going to want to plug them into the female banana color coded like such, and then attach your mini grabbers to the BNC side. And you're going to want to connect the red lead into the 3 amp fuse for DC, and the black end into the low input. And these are color coded again, and if we hook them up to our circuit, we will get the same current. I hooked it up backwards because to demonstrate that current is also polarized and we have a negative sign here. But this value is exactly the same.